Hmm? Ah!
You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode is the supernatural horror film Insidious, directed by James Wan and released April 1st, 2011. And, I'm so excited. Why is it taking this long to do this one? I don't know. It was just like, came to my head. We were like, we need a movie for this week. And I was like, freaking Insidious. Man, it's one of my all-time favorites. And it felt right. It was time.
It did. It did. And I kind of left it up to you this week. Like, Pake, you picked the movie for this week, and this is what you brought to the table. Mm-hmm. So glad you did, because there's a lot to talk about with this one.
Oh, yeah. It's a fun one. For sure. Before we get into, like, all of our other stuff, yeah, just, like, the little notes, because it's one of those movies, because Daphne, I know you've had quite a few when we cover them. This one's one of mine, where you go, like, oh, I almost feel like I don't need to watch it to take notes, because I've seen it so many times. And all the important stuff already lives in my head. Like, that was me with this one, where I was just like, as I'm watching it to take notes, like, I could stop and I would take notes about something that happened, like, an hour later. Because I was like, and then this leads to this, and that's going to lead to that. And I was like, this movie lives in my head. I've seen it so many times, I know what's coming.
Yeah, that's how it was for me last week with the first Purge.
Yeah.
Because that movie is just one I've seen so many times that I can, I have the outline in my head already.
Yep.
And I remember the little details. And I can almost quote some of it, so. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen it enough. Those are the fun ones, though, because when they already live in your head,
yeah,
they're just so much more fun to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I was giddy about this one. And then as soon as it starts, and I'm just like in that mode, because God, I love the score of this movie so much. The super creepy, like, strings and, like, just kind of the, like, way, just, like, there's more musical ways to put it that I'm just, like, not grasping right now. But yeah, just everything is just very, like, off-kilter and doesn't mash very well, which is what's great about it, is it's that, it just sounds creepy and unsettling, and it's so good. It's a classic horror movie vibe.
Oh, definitely. I got Amityville horror vibes from this one. Big time. It was just, like you said, with the music, the setting, for me, the way things were constructed in the movie, and the jump scares, and some of them were more subtle than others.
Yeah.
I just, couldn't get comfortable watching because I was ready for them to scare me at a time I wasn't expecting, I guess.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to get too comfortable. So I should probably start off with our production notes, which we like to begin every episode with. So Insidious was filmed in Los Angeles, California. The screenplay was written by Leigh Whannell. Yes, the Leigh Whannell, who played Doug in Cooties.
Yes.
It was shot in just 3 weeks. It was a very hectic schedule, but they pulled it off. The tagline is, "It's not the house that's haunted." It was one of the most profitable films of 2011. The budget was just $1.5 million, and it grossed over $100 million. It is 101 minutes long. Pake, bring on the synopsis.
All right. Kind of spoilery, but if you've seen it and you're listening, then it's fine. A family looks to prevent evil spirits from trapping their comatose child in a realm called The Further.
Ooh. The Further was almost the title for this movie.
Yes.
But I think Insidious is so much stronger.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they switched it up.
Mm-hmm. just has that dark feel to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. It's what the word means.
Yeah. It's so creepy. Like, the vibe was just, like I said, the Amityville horror type. And then with the music, for me, it almost sounded retro in a way.
Yeah.
Because it took me back to like the 80s, horror that was more than just slasher. It was complex.
Yeah. Even the like Insidious logo that like on the screen at the beginning and end of the movie is like very old school in style, and so it's awesome.
Yeah, this movie made me never want to move to another house again. because at first we think it's the house. Yeah. And then it's not, and then I was like, oh, okay, I guess I can move now. But no. Very, very creepy. There's one particular moment, I know you know what it is, with the lipstick demon, Patrick Wilson. I know it's coming when I watch it again, and it still scares me half to death. Yeah. That demon design is insane. And the cool thing about it is it is the composer.
It is. Joseph Bashara, who is the composer of the film, which I was talking about how much I love the score. Yes, also does play the lipstick face demon. Yeah. And it's cool because he then went on to compose and play different monster and demon roles in most of the Insidious and Conjuring universe movies. And so he just James Wan and Lee Wanell like to keep him around, which is awesome. It makes sense. Yeah. He also was a composer for different music in You're Next that we covered a while back. So there's that little tidbit.
Love that. Yeah, I think he's really cool, and I love that they've kept him around, and I think that he does a good job separating the music out for the different universes to have it sound distinct. Yeah. And that's not easy to do when you have two movie series that are about possession, not possession, demons, spirits, like... That's very closely related, so it's really hard to do. But he's managed to pull it off, so I think that's great.
That's cool. Yeah, and I don't know of many other instances of composers being actors in the movie as well. I like that James Wan himself stated it was kind of like if you were watching Star Wars and found out Darth Vader was played by John Williams, which is really cool,
I kind of want to see that, though. Yeah. Can we have that? Is it too late? I kind of want that Pake.
He's up there, but he's still going, so...
He is. He's still bringing it.
We could try to make it happen while it can. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's not really... In the Star Wars universe, I don't know if there's a way to bring an old Vader back. That doesn't really make sense, but No. It's funny that we're talking Star Wars because I've got other Star Wars jokes hidden in my notes talking about this.
You do?
We'll get to those.
You know what? I blame it on the fact that you just finished playing that game.
I did. Jedi Survivor was incredible, by the way. So good.
You're always on the lookout for a good game. Mm-hmm. Something that's fun. So if any of our listeners out there have a good game that they think Pake should try out, please let us know, because he's always on the hunt for it.
Yeah, story games. First part. One single player, story driven games. That's Horizon, God of War, Jedi games. Yeah, those are.
Yeah, but which one's your favorite?
Red Dead.
Out of all of them, which one do you like the best?
Red Dead 2.
Yeah. Red Dead 2. There's something about that game. It's special. I didn't even play it. I just watched it be played, and it was like watching a 30-hour movie. Mm-hmm. And you get attached to the characters.
Yeah. Love it. Anyway, tangent. Video games.
You know we're good on tangents.
Oh, yeah.
We're yeah.
Hey, you have a personalized voice message from Arthur Morgan himself. So
I do.
Isn't
that
awesome.
Great?
Yes.
It's so sweet. I should put that on my phone and have it as a ringtone. Somehow.
Daphne? Yeah.
You know what? There are moments in this podcast I want to splice out and have as a ringtone for different things because it's been so much fun. Just some silly thing that we talk about. It's like, oh, I really need that. It's just funny.
It's great.
So let's get into this discussion.
All right. I don't know how many times I have to say it. Like, if those who listen know how we do things, kind of break down characters and stuff, but all different movies are all different, and it's hard to do that sometimes. Where this one, like, we were like, I tried to like, oh, can we break it out by character? And then in the end, I was like, no, I cannot. This first section is going to be most of the movie, and it's just the Lamberts, because it's hard to, separate Josh and Renee at first. And so I was like, well, I have them, and then I have Dalton. And then I was like, well, all my notes are just pre-coma Dalton, and there's like 3, and I'm just going to throw them back in. So it's the Lamberts is what we can kind of combine and talk about at first. And then there's some other fun stuff to get to after that, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, what did you think of Josh Lambert overall?
I like him. I like him as a character a lot. I think, like, he definitely plays that very, like, everybody is complex. And he plays that, I mean, because there's definitely moments early in the movie where him and Renee's relationship is the most adorable thing I've ever seen. Like, when they're in bed and he's joking about, her music and write a song about me, and he's singing these, and he's the coolest guy with big muscles. And he's, I just smile while watching that because it's adorable, Yeah. And then you see when things get hard, he puts himself away in that shell. He's lying about staying. I mean, he's not really lying. He is staying at school late and grading papers, but he's also just like sleeping there, and he's just avoiding going home and dealing with what's going on. And it's hard to fault him for that, because people do that. Like, as he says, he's, I'm dealing with it in my own fucking way, right? Is what he says. And it's just like, yeah, it's not the healthiest way to do it. It'd be great if you could talk to somebody and work through it, but that's not a step that everybody can go to easily. And as we learn things about him in his past, where he's been through a lot of trauma that he has had to kind of put away and not think about and forget about and compartmentalize, that it's easy to understand why this is a very triggering and traumatic thing for him.
Yeah, definitely. There are things that he doesn't even realize at all, because he doesn't remember. I found myself getting aggravated with him, running off and hiding. I felt for Renee, because I think she was stuck doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Running around to pick up the kids and drop things off, drop them off, and then unpacking the house, and and she's even on the phone with those phone trees. You know how it gets when you have to talk to get to someone, and you're just trying to get to another human. That's why I do everything online that I can. I don't want to get on the phone and have to deal with that. Right. So I felt for her in that respect. And he doesn't blame her, but he kind of, is like, well, were you putting things away in the attic today? Kind of alluding to the fact that maybe she left the door open, and that's why Dalton ended up there. And I'm just kind of like, you're complicated. Yeah. You're realistic, but I don't really like you right now.
I can see that.
For sure. That's how I felt about him at the start. Yeah. It took him a long time to come to the table. And Renee really, she just continually broke down.
Yeah. But I think when things were very serious, when he was needed the most, he was able to step up and be there. He did step up. Besides astral projecting to go save your son from an alternate dimension, like, that's one thing. But, like, even the small things, like, he, doesn't quite understand or see the same things that she does. But he doesn't play that role of, oh, you're crazy, and, just, you go talk to somebody about it and whatever. No, when she seriously comes in and says, I cannot sleep in this house another night, we have to move, he immediately packs everything up and gets out of there. He bucks the usual, haunted house horror movie trope of, like, this is like, we have to leave. This house is haunted. We're getting out now. And it's like, and then they do. They leave and they get out. So movie over, right? Like you think like,
yeah, no.
typically,
No, it made me think of Poltergeist when at the end the family goes to stay at a hotel and they push the TV out of the hotel, like thinking everything is going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then it isn't.
Right. So yeah, so I enjoyed a lot of that stuff, but yeah, so the Lambert family here, moving into two different houses in like the span of probably within 6 months of each other is
that's
a lot.
Expensive and a lot to deal with. Unpacking all of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, moving is never fun.
No,
never fun. I know people who will move into a house and just say, "Okay, I'm never moving again because I don't want to go through this." It's so awful.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so that's where we pick up with them, getting to meet them a little bit. Like, it's Rose Byrne is awesome. Patrick Wilson.
Oh, she is
awesome. I really like them. I buy them as their characters right off the bat. So
yeah, me too. Rose Byrne is just authentic. Like the performance just came through as meaningful and realistic and. Just really sincere.
Yeah. And then, of course, Dalton is the first child we see. The kind of main one, even though most of his role is laying in bed asleep.
Yeah.
But, he does that great. No.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Ty Simpkins, little baby Ty Simpkins. It's fun to go back all these years later and watch this and see him. Because this was the first movie I ever saw him in. He had done a few other things before. But this was my introduction to Ty Simpkins, and at a young age, I mean, he definitely carried later portions of this film incredibly well. But then I've kind of been able to see him grow on screen through different projects and things like that, which is cool, because of course he is Gray in Jurassic World, which we've covered. And then he's also in the MCU as Harley Keener. So he's in the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
And also recently he just had a pretty good part in an Oscar-winning film, The Whale, alongside Brendan Fraser, Hong Chow, and Sadie Sink. So that was really cool to see him there too. And he's a lot older, a lot more grown up. And so you're just like, it took me a moment. I was like, holy shit, that's Ty Simpkins. Wow. Yeah. So
yeah, he's so little. I'm watching it thinking, man, I mean, he was young when he played Gray in Jurassic World. However, he's much younger in this one, 5 years younger. And I did go check when I was doing my research. He's now 21.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm excited to see what else he does because he's continuing to work a lot.
Yeah, as an adult with new roles and really not a child actor anymore. I mean, if you haven't seen The Whale yet, then watch that for his performance. I mean, for Brendan Fraser's performance in it. I mean, that whole movie. But yeah, his character is very interesting, very complex in The Whale. And it's really cool to see Ty Simpkins, playing a very just, adult role. And it's just he's still, a younger guy. He's very much a kid in that movie in some senses, but... Yeah. But still, I'm not going to spoil anything on that movie. Just go watch it. It doesn't fit in this realm of this podcast at all, but still go watch it.
No, we won't be covering it. However, it could be covered on another podcast. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, maybe it's Showtime.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I want to go through that movie again as much as I did enjoy it.
Is it a lot?
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot. But yeah, that was great. Anyway, back to the movie. I and this is not the first movie to do this. It's not any broken ground by any standards, but hiding and putting little clues early on in the movie of little things that are going to come back and be more important. Of course, oh yeah, your father doesn't have any pictures of him as a kid, and I don't know why. That's weird. He doesn't like taking pictures. We'll learn more about that later, for sure.
We will.
Or the details of Dalton's drawings that we see with his, his dad refers to as oh yeah, you draw yourself as a superhero. And it's well, that's not exactly what he's flying for sure, but we'll come back. That will come back and we'll find out more about it. So I like those kind of things.
Yeah, his wall of cartoon or crayon drawings definitely came back later on and helped Josh put the pieces together to understand what was happening, and it kind of reinforced what Renee had been trying to get through to him.
Yeah. And then just the movie is so great at the creepy factor. And of course, before everything really kicks off, you gotta have, I don't know, I was like channeling my best, like Ryan George. Just like early movie fake outs are tight. But for real, like, like the furnace in the attic making these creepy sounds, and it's getting you on edge early, even though literally it is nothing has happened. But like, you're already like,
The opening credits just kind of ease you into it, but it's just in a way that it's not to calm you or make you feel, relaxed while you're going into the movie. It honestly just put me more on edge right from the start. I just felt like, okay, stuff's going to happen. Even though I haven't seen this in a while, it pulled me right back into it. And I started to anticipate some things. And I rewound, or I cycled back to look at certain things because I'm like, oh my God, was that what I thought it was? And it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a ton, but there are a few little like Flanagan like hidden ghost moments in the movie.
Oh my gosh. I know. I just kept going back looking. It's like, okay, I've got to pause it at just the right time to see if it's what I think it is. Because you're looking for it.
Renee being a songwriter and musician, which music kind of plays a part in this movie for sure, especially one song in particular. Looking at you, Tiny Tim.
Oh, man. Anything to make that song creepy. Man, I'll never think about it the same way again.
Oh,
I mean,
no.
I really haven't.
No, that song forever is tied to this movie for me, for sure.
It's like the hide and seek song for Ready or Not.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I'm playing Dead by Daylight and we have to like run away from the killer, that goes run, run, run over and over again.
Yeah. Although I don't know if I've ever heard that song in any other context.
I haven't, but it just gets in my head. I think because I love that movie so much.
But yeah, so then on with the big plot of the movie, of course. The morning after Dalton takes his little bump off the ladder, he doesn't wake up. Then we cut to a few days later. We're in the hospital. He's in like a coma, but not a coma. There's no brain damage, zero medical reason why he shouldn't be awake. It's truly baffling. And then another hard cut to 3 months later, still comatose.
Yeah.
At home with a nurse on standby. And it's just like, they really throw you into the deep end on like, oh, now you're just like deep in family trauma with everybody. Like, here's, it's not good.
And it's traumatic for everyone in the family, even they're not, well, even for the baby, because she's like traumatized by things going on in her room.
I know. She's like, I'm just trying to sleep in this crib, and this freaking dude just keeps showing up and bothering me, whispering in my monitor. Just go away.
Exactly. That's kind of, I mean, some things had happened before that, little stuff, but when Renee starts hearing the voices through the baby monitor and she gets this, I want it now. Yeah. That really, I mean, oh my God, would you want to hear that? No. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely creepy. Yeah, like that whispering, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Give it to me. Give me it. I want it.
Yeah.
I don't like
it. Yeah.
Nope. Don't like that.
No. Don't want that. No. Don't need that in my life. Yeah. I mean, and you could tell, like, right after that, she runs upstairs and the baby's just inconsolable. But even a little bit later that day, Foster got an award at school, but he didn't show it to his parents.
Yeah, I mean, he's feeling... it's the little brother syndrome exponentially, because not only is he just the little brother, but he's the little brother to the kid who has been in a coma for 3 months with everybody just worried about this condition. And so he feels overshadowed and overlooked, which is really sad, but, like, understandable. And then they make it worse because you never see him again for the rest of the movie. So, like, even for us, we're like,
you don't.
Aren't you sad that he feels so, like, overshadowed? Well, now we're literally going to overshadow him and just say he went to Lorraine's and we never see this kid ever again.
I know. We do see his sister a little bit later.
Yeah.
That's when things start going a little bit crazy, and this is like this late night knock at the door.
Mm-hmm. Now, Andrew Astor as Foster comes back and plays a bigger role in the second movie. I do know. Like,
yes.
we'll give you that little
yes, he
hint
does.
if you haven't seen it, because we will cover it eventually, I'm sure. Because I do want to run through these.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Now I'm in that mode after watching this. It's like, we got to do them all right now. Just back to back to back to back to back. It's time. This season is just an Insidious and Conjuring, marathon. I don't know. Maybe not. But...
What, are you thinking quadruple dip? And then the fifth one comes, so it's quintuple dip?
Okay.
Okay.
But I do want to get through them at,
okay.
not the slowest speed. I don't know if, one a season is going to, be good for me. But we'll see. We'll get to that.
Well, even before that, I mean, when the whole thing's going on about the award, Foster's really scared.
Yeah.
He wants to change rooms.
He says maybe the creepiest thing that Renee has ever heard to that point in her life, I think. Yeah, is, I'm scared. What are you scared of? Of Dalton. Can I change rooms? I don't like when he walks around at night. Like, the fuck?
Oh, man. I know. And she's having to reconcile all of these things.
Yeah.
Like what she thinks she's seeing and hearing. Josh not quite believing her, but at least getting her out of the house.
Yeah. And that's, again, when we talked about a little bit earlier, Josh is kind of going off to his own, staying late at work, saying, oh, they need me here. But, no, he's doing it all on his own accord. And so, tiny little fun fact notes. When we see him the first time sitting there at school after his class lets out and the students leave, and he's got the chalkboard behind him, there's a list of names, presumably students or whatever, written on the chalkboard behind him. But one of the names included in that list is James Wan, which is fun. The director of this movie, and there's also a jigsaw face drawn on the chalkboard under the list of names as well, which is a fun little inside Easter egg. James Wan also directed the movie Saw, and he also worked on writing that movie with Lee Wanell as well, who wrote this movie and also played Specs in this movie as well. So
Lee Wanell also likes to appear in movies that he has been behind, because he was in the original Saw.
Mm-hmm. And
some people did not, if I remember right, were not complimentary about his performance in that movie. And I'm like, I mean, who better to write a character for yourself than yourself? I mean, it kind of doesn't make sense.
So much.
Well, I mean, come on. He was Doug in Cooties, and Cooties will live in infamy on this podcast.
Yes, forever and ever. So yes, we talked about Josh avoiding the stressful stuff, even though he says he's not, but he definitely is. And part of that stress is that he is kind of having these dreams and visions, little pieces of memories of his own that are creeping back in. They're fuzzy, things, little things about his childhood, the entities, the further, the other places he'd been, and the old woman, and a lot of these things kind of living in his brain and coming back because of what's happening with his son, even though he doesn't understand what it is. So it just adds to the stress for sure. Yeah.
He just knows that he doesn't like to have his picture taken, and he doesn't really have any pictures of his childhood.
Mm-hmm. And then Renee's got her own stuff that she's dealing with, for sure. She's rightfully terrified after the things that she's seen, the experiences that they've had, kind of skipping over, the alarm going off and her seeing the guy through the window and all these. But, I have, demon and spirits notes that I will get to at some point to talk about more about those. But, yeah, it's haunted. She wants to move. We talked about that. And then to break that stereotype, it's okay, we're leaving. And it's oh, movie over, right?
Yeah.
No. But that's where I love the concept of this movie so much. It's that tagline, it's not the house that's haunted, right? So we've got to continue on with that. And new house, new haunts.
Yeah, exactly. You think things are going to get better for them, and it doesn't. We find out that Dalton's he's just not having any reaction to the treatments that they're trying. It's everyone has given up, and that really upset Renee.
Yeah. But, so maybe a new start will be good. go fresh. But yeah, she's peacefully moving about the new house, cleaning it up, and walks right by the little boy standing against the wall. But don't worry.
Oh my god!
She won't miss him for long.
No, he's gonna make sure to give her quite a performance.
Yes, yeah. She goes to take the trash out, and the music changes. So she looks back through the window to see this boy dancing a little ghostly jig to tiptoe through the tulips. You know, just when she thought she got away from it. No, we're in full swing haunting mode, opening and closing doors, self-rocking horses, creepy laughter. We get it all.
Everything. All of it.
So she brings in a priest, and then more importantly, someone who can actually help, Josh's mother, who's experienced some stuff like this.
Yeah. I appreciated so much that Lorraine was so supportive of her, basically telling her, you need to do what you need to do to get through this, and, you know, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, as I'm watching, I was like, well, Lorraine has some experience with this, with her own son, but that's still a secret, so shh.
It is.
Yeah, she has a certain attunement to this kind of stuff, and she had a dream of the house and the demon that wants possession of Dalton. And then that Dathomirian-looking demon appears right there behind Josh.
Oh my god, they're the creepiest.
Huh.
Oh man. It's not a surprise that James Wan is behind this movie when you know about The Conjuring.
Mm-hmm.
Like, with The Conjuring, there's still, like, things that happen that it's just such a nod to old school.
Oh, yeah.
Horror. It really is.
I'm surprised we haven't done more James Wan, because I know, like, Dead Silence is another one of his that I really love that we should cover at some point. But just, he's great with the horror stuff. But then even, you know, he branched out a little bit. He did one of the Fast and Furious movies, which is interesting. I think the 7th one, I think, is his, which is
there's
interesting.
so many. It's so hard to keep them straight.
And then he's the director of the Aquaman movies, which the first one I saw in theaters, and definitely some horror elements that he was really good at throwing in there. Have not seen the second one, probably won't, for certain reasons. I'm not going to talk about it. But,
yep, equally the same.
But yeah, so yeah, he's great with that. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, that demon, the lipstick face demon, as credited, appears behind Josh, and then like Lorraine freaks out. Then it's gone, but then they all can hear it trashing Dalton's room, leaving behind more bloody handprints and claw marks. But he leaves his desired vessel unharmed.
Yes, he's just conveniently laying on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then they have their entire, you know, run-in and experiences with Specs and Tucker and Elise, which I'm skipping over all that for now, because I'll talk about it later.
Okay. I love me some Specs and Tucker and Elise.
Yes. Because, yeah, they're a big part of stuff, but I want to talk about their, you know, introduction and stuff kind of more in their own section, if that's cool.
That's totally cool.
Yeah.
That's how we do it here.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, you know, they have that interaction, figure out what's going on. Josh isn't buying it at first. And so kind of sends them away. But yeah, then he's got more reason to believe that maybe they might be onto something after he looks through those drawings and stuff like we talked about. And then Lorraine comes back to drop the next bomb. Excuse me. Throat. Yeah, drops that next bomb, which is the reason that she knew to bring in Elise in the first place was that Elise had helped her with a similar situation with Josh when he was a little boy. Because he could astral project, and this entity of the old woman would lure him out in order to try to take over his body. And so to protect him, he was made to forget his ability and those memories. But that ability, of course, is passed on to his son, and so now the only option is Josh is going to have to remember so that he can astral project once more to go into the further to rescue his son, because time is running very short.
Yeah, they do connect. Elise does connect a bit with Dalton through this process, and they realize that it's a scary place for him. They do a little seance, and man, it looked rough. I couldn't imagine trying to go through that. And then they realize they don't have a lot of time and they just have to, Josh is going to have to do it. He's going to have to do this.
Yeah. So he does. And we get Josh in the further, which takes form of the first house that they had moved to, where Dalton got lost at, which makes sense story-wise, but also get more use out of that set. So from a practical standpoint, from a movie-making standpoint, it was like, they got this whole 2-story house set here. Like, use it. Make it the further.
It was definitely interesting because Josh, in the pictures that we had on Dalton's wall, there was a picture of a red door. There was a picture of the lipstick-faced demon and some other monster drawings. And so it was really interesting as Josh is going into the further, he's able, he sees these things. He sees the red door.
Yeah. Yeah, he's instructed where to go by his younger self, which is interesting. And goes into that house, encounters some previous spirits that we've seen, plus some others, like the tragic tale of the old-timey Smiley family.
Oh, man. Yeah. At first glance, they look like this happy-go-lucky 50s family.
Mm-hmm.
And then, kaboom. One of the daughters loses it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Bye-bye family.
Mm-hmm. And then, you mentioned the Red Door, which also, Insidious, the Red Door, comes out July 7th this year.
Yes,
starring this original cast returning.
It does.
I need to catch back up and rewatch the ones that I have. It's been a long time since I've seen, and I never watched Last Key, the 4th one still, so I need to get on that.
You need to.
Cycle back around and get ready to watch. So even if we don't cover them all right away, I think I'm going to do my own little Insidious, marathon soon just to get caught up.
That's a good idea.
So I can go to the theaters and watch The Red Door when that comes out.
Yeah. I like that this next one is going to return to that. We've had a couple prequels in the middle, so it'll be fun to get back to this family.
Yeah.
And see what this storyline's about.
And seeing the older Ty Simpkins again, talking about it. Ty Simpkins returning as Dalton, as in the movie, in The Red Door, this is Dalton as he's going into college. So we are getting an older Dalton. It's interesting.
We are. It's going to be interesting to see how things have been for the family.
Mm-hmm.
Since they're all coming back. I'm excited for it. I hope, though, that it keeps that horror vibe that we've gotten so used to.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a little concerned, though. The person doing the script on this one, on The Red Door, is Scott Teems. And he wrote another movie that we covered on this podcast that we didn't like a lot. And that was Halloween Kills.
Ah, oh, dang. That's worrisome, honestly. But
there is some hope, though. Leigh Whannell wrote the overall story.
Yeah, and it's still heavily produced by James Wan. Even though he's not directing, he is very involved. So hopefully the people steering the bus will say, no, we're not going to do that because it doesn't fit within the story we've told or the universe that this movie is set in. Let's hope. Yeah. But yes, I think I'm going to do my own little marathon and watch that in theaters because I'm back in this watching this movie to cover for this episode. I'm so ingrained back in this world. I was like, oh man, I need to get back into all of these. So yeah.
We could always go see it while I'm there.
Yeah, I guess if I waited a little bit after it came out, for sure. We will be together, and we've got some other plans, but yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
For sure. Maybe we will do that. Maybe we will.
Maybe we'll do that, right?
Some fun theaters in Dallas, so yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, where was I at? The Red Door, which is what then made me tangent on the Red Door. He recognizes the door from Dalton's drawings and figures this must be where he is. Then old Leather Jacket Skullface doesn't want to let him in. That is the long-haired fiend, as he's credited. Fun fact about the long-haired fiend was, I think it was James Wan and Leigh Whannell, I think, had a mutual friend, who told a story about waking up in the middle of the night in a hotel or something, and there is this person that he saw, whatever, this like long-haired individual just pacing back and forth in the hallway, and him telling them that story. They're like, well, that's clearly going to be a character in this movie. So
you know what? I love that James Wan and Lee Wanell are open-minded enough to just take things that they've heard out, from friends and incorporate it into the story.
Yeah. But but he has the power of life and can defeat him pretty easily, get him out of the way, head inside the door to enter the lair of the lipstick face demon to find Dalton alone, scared, and crying. Well, maybe not necessarily completely alone.
No. Scared and crying, absolutely.
Yeah. But
so happy to see his dad? Absolutely. Yes, for sure.
But
not alone.
Might be in the room with somebody else who keeps an eye on them. Again, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in detail, though. But they escape the demon, get cornered by the other spirits, and it's Renee's voice that leads them back to where they need to go, but with all the other spirits in tow. And they start crossing over, and it just gets very tense. Lots of, not sure, like, oh no, they're literally, like, closing in on everybody. Everybody can see these things now.
Yeah.
But as things are going on, Dalton fights past the lipstick face demon, makes his way back to his body. Josh, after they're separated a little bit, has his encounter with the old woman, but then Josh also wakes up, so it must be a perfectly happy ending, right? Dalton's awake, he's scarfing down spaghetti, being adorable, talking to his mom, and Josh is choking Elise to death in the other room. It's just warm fuzzies all around, right?
No.
No, what? No. Oh, the choking thing's bad, isn't it?
The choking thing is bad, yes.
Oh, well, I mean, she did take his picture, and she knows how he feels about that.
Yeah. Well, he feels extra bad about it because he brought something back with him, and his body is being controlled by a spirit.
Yeah, okay. It's not Josh. You're right. It's the parasite, the old woman that managed to possess Josh's body on the way back in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then the end. But for real, that's the end of the movie.
Well,
that really is where they're going to leave us. Until Insidious Chapter 2, which, again, we'll probably cover down the road. Because I do want to go
Yeah. We will. I have a feeling now that whenever I say, okay, Peg, you could come up with a movie this week, you're going to say Insidious 2.
I kind of feel like that's probably a good guess.
Yeah. So instead, I'm just going to have to say, okay, Peg, what do you want to do this week? Not Insidious 2.
The Conjuring.
Keep that out of there. What, is this going to be a James Wan season?
Yes, let's just do
oh, man.
We've got so many movies to do.
I know. So you know what? It's too bad we're ending the podcast next week then, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Big bummer. Just kidding. Yeah. We'll never stop. Go forever. We won't stop until every movie that's ever been written is covered. So.
Oh my goodness, Pake.
Yeah.
We might be in the old age home by the time we hit that.
That's all right. They've got good Wi-Fi.
So yeah, the movie does end basically with Renee realizing that Josh is not Josh, and it goes black. That's it.
Yeah. That's it. That's all we know, except for the other, 4 movies that are coming up after that.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about those yet, so you just got to stick around and wait.
I still feel like, when you're covering a show and you record the episode for the podcast and then you can immediately go watch the next episode.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting that vibe from this. Like, I need to do it.
It's the same. There is a slight possibility I might be watching Insidious Chapter 2 tonight. So it is possible. I've got so many other things I need to watch tonight too, though. But it is a small possibility.
Yeah.
I have time. We'll see.
Definitely. Okay, so I feel like we took care of Renee and Josh and Dalton and the family. Because like we mentioned, we didn't see Foster or Callie again. So does that mean that we get to move on to Elise and her team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
good.
It's definitely time for that.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love them.
yeah, Lorraine, Josh's mother, knows someone who can help. And so then enter my early nominations for supporting characters of the season, the wonderful Specs and Tucker.
Oh,
Just
man.
spirit viewing and hot pocket chewing, you know?
Oh, my God. And they have to be a duo.
Yeah.
It has to be both of them together because
yes.
they balance each other out so well. Because Tucker is so intense and gadget related, and Specs is more aloof.
Mm-hmm.
And so they balance each other really well.
Yeah.
But I also think that Tucker believes he is, like, more important and smarter than Specs and makes the decisions.
It's a whole running through line joke throughout the movie between the two of them where it's like, and this is the most important part of the process. It's like, but it's really not, mine is. But actually it is. To where even after everything has happened, you know, like the last time we see them, before we get the Josh possession reveal, where they're sitting out in the van, like kind of packing their stuff back up, and he's like, we're going to write a book about this. And Tucker's like, and my pictures are going to be the main selling point. And he's like, well, they won't be the main selling point, but they'll definitely be important. And he's like, well, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Words are also worth 1,000 words. Yeah, it's...
I loved them. They were just, what a dynamic duo.
Yes.
You can't have one without the other.
Uh-huh.
I remembered enjoying the performances the first time I saw this. I loved it even more this time.
Yeah,
I really did.
They're great. Again, their chemistry with each other is so good, but then it's funny because when you watch them on screen, they seem like complete goobers. Mm-hmm. They're just like, who are these losers? What are they doing? They're just like, this is almost embarrassing for them. But then surprisingly, they are the real deal. They know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about, and they're good at what they do.
Yeah. I think Tucker's saying, we can call Elise now. Like, he was so firm in that. I'm like, okay, yeah, there's definitely something going down here. And Tucker's decided it has to happen. And it's after he sees these two sisters, the doll girls. Okay.
I just call them smiley ghouls. Smiley people. But yes, Tucker spots them. And yeah, he's like, all right, Elise, now. And she does appear the next day. She looks around and, like, quickly knows. It's like, yeah, we don't even need any of the other formalities. This is definitely a supernatural situation. She goes into Dalton's room, and she spots and is describing our Insidious demon.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's, like, the big reveal and twist of the movie comes after that, which we've talked about a little bit. But, yes, Dalton isn't in a coma. He's an astral projector who got stuck out in this place that Elise refers to as the Further, and now his empty vessel is wanted by all kinds of spirits and demons, which is why the houses have seemed haunted. You know, as Elise says, the tagline came from it, but her full quote, it's not the house that's haunted, it's your son.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mentioned Josh's not having this dimension traveling spiritual body stuff. And typically I would agree, Josh, it's all very nonsensical, except this is a horror movie, so you need to get on board.
Definitely. I think one of the things that sticks out to me is when he finally relents and says, okay, Elise can come back, was the picture of Dalton that had written on it, last night I watched myself sleep and then I flew away.
Yeah. And
that I think things really started to come back, but then Lorraine came and told the story. At least, I mean, she seemed very firm, I thought, in everything that she was suggesting. She's like, we can try this. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
It might not work.
Yeah, I mean, and even whenever he kind of goes off on her, she understands the skepticism and leaves. She's like, hey, I get it. And I'm around if you need me. Yeah, so which he does call her back in. She's got this unorthodox idea to bring him back, which doesn't work, really. The first one, it's not as easy as that. But yeah, I did have he says, I've listened to the Dog and Pony show, and I'm not having it. And then it shows Tucker and Specs that seem a little offended. But I was like, well, yeah, they were like a pretty fun metalcore band that was super underground, and they only released one album back in 2005, but I don't see how they're relevant to any of this, so I would be confused too. No.
man.
Only I would hear, I've listened to the Dog and Pony Show and go, oh yeah, that metalcore band that released one album in '05 and nobody knows who they are that I liked.
Only you would know that. Only you.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
There was one point when he was walking in the other house, and it looked like he saw a younger version of himself pointing to where he was supposed to go.
Mm-hmm. That was. Let's see, where else? Because I don't have a whole lot left. I guess let's just talk about the scene of that first thing that Elise attempted, where she's reaching out to Dalton, finds him in the further, and he's hiding from who he calls the man with fire on his face.
Yeah,
But,
can you imagine?
yeah, this demon hears Elise and attacks her, and it seems that she's famous in the demon community.
Mm-hmm.
That I know who you are, which, again, there are prequel movies that we might get to eventually later to explain some of that. But, yeah, things get really intense. The spirit bulb things are just popping off a bunch, and Dalton ends up getting possessed, and the other spirits are coming out to play.
Ooh, rough.
Yeah, it's just...
At least gets called some names.
Yeah,
Some
it's
not
just
nice
a battle
names.
royale in there. Everybody's just like throwing people around, and but Elise, pulls the demon out of Dalton's body, at least for now. We'll see, it's not a permanent solution, but shit's very serious, and that's where she comes up with the plan that we got to bring Lorraine back in and reveal to Josh the truth, because he's the only option we have now.
Yeah, he has to do it because he's the one who had this issue before, had this ability before, and passed it on to his son. So, yeah, he goes through Elise talks him through this, but at some point, it took Renee telling him to come back and making sure her voice was out there and that he could hear it to bring him back.
Yeah.
To follow things.
I only had one other note, which is, damn, Tucker, you pack a really big flashlight.
Oh my god, yeah. Yes, he does. He had quite the equipment. Like the viewfinder that had been transitioned to be some sort of light
right.
thing. That's where he saw the doll girls, and that's when he freaked out.
It was like one of those little viewfinder things that was he seemed so offended when Specs is like, that thing's practically just a modified toy. And he's like, how dare he?
Dare you? He takes his toys very seriously.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He really does.
Which Specs understands, because I love he finds this Starfleet action figure thing or whatever that Josh had, and it was like, it's like, what? It's like Series 1, you should have taken out of the box.
Toys are meant to be played with.
I have a lot of action figures and different toys and stuff that would be considered collectibles, and I have another friend who collects horror action figures and things, and he is beyond frustrated with me because every time because nothing comes out of boxes, he displays them in shadow boxes, still in their stuff, or hangs them on the walls, and that's his thing with it. And then I get them and I just pull them out of the packaging, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" It's great. But it's payback for when we used to be roommates, and I would watch him make sandwiches and almost have an aneurysm because he has zero sandwich etiquette with making. He just throws stuff on there. There's no stacking. There's no order to these things. Anyway.
I didn't know that you were the sandwich police. That's something new I've learned about you. Pake wants you to have a process when you make a sandwich. It's got to be carefully laid out.
There's got to be, man.
Condiments on nice and smooth.
Yeah, you've got to construct it in a way to where you know what the bites come. You can't construct it in a way it was like, well, this bite's going to have no cheese and extra pickles, and then this bite might. What are you doing? No, there's an engineering that comes into play with sandwiches. Come on.
I had no idea that you were so into the building of a sandwich. And now that I know. I mean, do you go into a restaurant and get a sandwich and take it apart to make sure it's correct?
Because I trust that people know what they're doing if they're working in a place like that.
Are you sure that they do, though? Have you interviewed them?
You're right. Maybe I need to, just really bring in, a magnifying glass and be like, all right, how much? Oh, a little scale.
Yeah.
not enough. No.
No. They didn't put enough bacon on it. You go back to the drawing board. Well, the last glimpse that we really get of Elise is she goes to take the photos and realizes something about his hands, decides to take a quick photo with the camera, and realizes that he brought a demon back with him, and he strangles her.
Yep. You said, we know how he feels about getting his picture taken. That's on her. No, I'm kidding. No victim blaming here. No.
He didn't have to do that. There was no need to kill her. Except that she was well known and probably had eradicated many spirits or even some of the spirit's friends.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of payback for years of torment.
So that is really all I have note-wise on our ghost fighting team, our ghost hunting team here.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. Who are you going to call? Specs and Tucker! Yeah.
So that kind of brings us to our demon creepy things.
Yeah.
That were in this episode.
Thrown in a couple little notes, but yeah, just some of those main scenes that we really see them in. Of course, the first big one is, it was like when these entities decide to torment this family, they're going to start pretty heavy. It's, they're talking about things that are a little weird, but then we get the knocks at the door, very aggressive knocks. But when Josh goes down to like investigate, that's when Renee sees the appearance of this entity, the long-haired fiend behind the baby with the open window there. And so Josh runs back up, and then the door gets just blasted open, setting off the alarms. It's a very tense sequence of events, for sure.
It is. And I felt for Renee in that situation because I think she's probably got it on her mind that, okay, he's going to see these things and realize that there are things that are happening, and it's not just me.
Mm-hmm.
Because before, there were little things like she couldn't find her sheet music, and it had been moved up in the attic, and she didn't move it there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Which, again, I think those things were red herrings. I don't think any of that was supernatural at all, with some of the stuff moving around.
Really?
It's not really explained why. Because, Dalton was awake and moving around, so there was no reason for anything to be there.
True.
So, I don't know. I think it's just kind of little things to make her feel off course, but I don't think they were related at all.
Okay.
But yeah, the bloody handprint by Dalton's feet, that can't be a good sign at all.
No. And I love the exchange that happened with that.
Yeah, deal with this.
She's like, you're not here with me in the situation. You're avoiding it. And he responds, he defends himself, and she's like, basically, fine, deal with this, and hands him the blanket with the red handprint on it. And I'm just like, yeah, you got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And she's done.
Yeah.
She is done at that point. But that's when he also starts having more of these visions of, like, him in bed as a child, and the hallway with candles, and yeah.
Yeah.
Connections to a past that he doesn't remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love some of the effects. One that I really want to point out, I kind of mentioned it, but not really, as the long-haired fiend there is pacing on the balcony back and forth, and then just appearing in the room from out of frame.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of my favorite little, like, shots from this movie, always. Like, it's always one I look forward to, because it's awesome but terrifying.
Yeah. Who doesn't, if you stay in the house, who doesn't hear a creaking sound and think that someone's in the room with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you do. You can't help it. You think that someone's there.
Yeah. And then the last main one I really have, while they're in the Red Door room there, and old Garth Maul jamming his Tiny Tim, sharpening his claws. And he gets interrupted by this man who's just so rudely trying to take his prey away from him. You can't have that. So he uses his force powers to push and pull these Lamberts around, but it's just not enough, and they run off and they get out. If only he knew where he put his lightsaber, things could have been different. But anyway.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And then last little tidbit, the dancing boy ghost.
Oh.
Played by Ben
Wolf.
Which other people might really know him for a couple of roles in American Horror Story and some other things. And yeah, Meep. He's incredible actor. They said, we wanted James Wan said, I wanted a creepy child ghost, but I didn't want a child to play it. So Ben Wolf is the absolute best. For those who know, though, unfortunately, we did lose Ben Wolf. He passed away a number of years ago due to a traffic accident. Just something like a freak accident thing that happened, and he will be missed. Because the things I ever saw him in, he's great at that kind of character stuff.
Yeah, I really enjoyed him. I didn't watch every season of American Horror Story, but I did watch season 1 and season 4 because he was in the one that was
those are the two he was in. Yeah, he was in 1 and 4.
And so great. I mean, you just loved his character.
Mm-hmm.
He brought it to life, and when I was looking through the cast list and I saw his name, I remembered that he had passed away. So it's like,
I definitely wanted to make sure to include a little shout out to Ben Wolf there.
Yeah.
But that's it.
That's all you have?
That's all I got.
All right. So I think that means, Pake, that we're ready for some behind the scenes stuff.
All right.
Okay. So I'm going to skip through some of these because we've already talked about some of them. So James Wan and Lee Wanell previously collaborated on Saw 3, and Dead Silence. Then after this film, they would go on to work on all the films in this series. James Wan also worked with Patrick Wilson on films in the Conjuring franchise, where Wilson played Ed Warren. Another tie to that, Lorraine in this movie, who was played by Barbara Hershey, is named after Lorraine Warren from the Conjuring series. So Oren Peely, who was a producer on this film, is well known for his 2007 found footage film Paranormal Activity, which spawned 6 sequels, although he directed only the first one. He's also produced all of the Insidious films, so he's involved. Mm-hmm. This was the first film that was distributed by Film District. Several scenes are taken from The Exorcist. The one where Rose Byrne goes up in the attic and she's kind of startled by furniture and noises up there, and suddenly there's this flare in the middle of nowhere, which I watched that too. I'm like, yep, that's another little thing that's going on in this movie that is indicating something's happening. And then there's a scene where Dalton hits Specs across the face and flings him across the room. Another Exorcist nod. So tons of people auditioned for the role of Lorraine Lambert, including Emma Thompson, Ashley Judd, Renee Zellweger, and Kate Walsh. Brendan Fraser was considered for the role of Josh Lambert. I'm glad that he came back when he did with The Whale and became, got the accolades.
Yeah. And like I said, also working with Ty Simpkins. So they still got their roles together at some point.
Oh, yeah. Here's a fun one. Ethan Hawke turned down the role of Josh Lambert, which, of course, we know Patrick Wilson plays. However, Hawke appears in Sinister, which is a 2012 film that's got some similarities to this one. And not only do Insidious and Sinister use a negative adjective as the title, both are the supernatural horror movies, and they are produced by Jason Blum. On this podcast, we last saw Lynn Shay as the ill-fated Grace in Snakes on a Plane, which was episode 40 back in May of 2021. So 2 years ago, we covered that movie.
Yeah.
And although the old woman demon is played by a man, it was not until they started working on the sequel that filmmakers decided the character was actually a man dressed as a woman. We already talked about the amazingness of Joseph Bashara. Mm-hmm. There is a post-credit scene showing the woman with the candle. Mm-hmm. And Jason Blum has mentioned he'd like to do a crossover with Insidious and Sinister, but that hasn't come together yet. We talked a bit already about Insidious and its sequels, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, and The Last Key, with The Red Door coming on July 7th. This film, The Red Door, is going to be directed by Patrick Wilson. It's going to be his directorial debut. He's going to be starring in it as well. And as we talked about, it's going to bring back the Lambert family. I talked also about Scott Teems and my nervousness around him being involved because of Halloween Kills, and also he did the Firestarter remake.
I still haven't seen that one, but
Yeah, me either. I'll stick to the original. But in Leigh Whannell we trust, and since he did the story, I have to hope that those involved will help steer things as much as they need to be.
yes. So yeah, maybe we'll even make that plan to watch that one together in theaters.
I think that would be so much fun.
So
Yeah.
sort of lines up. We'll have to wait a week or two after it drops, but
Are you sure you can do that?
yeah, I'll make it happen.
Okay. Okay.
So I think it would be fun. Yeah.
Wouldn't it? I think
Yeah.
so too. But we did it. We covered it.
Yeah. So the first step in our James Wan, Leigh Whannell creepy supernatural movies, because I definitely want to get into the Insidious series and even The Conjuring and its universe, Annabelle, The Nun, all of that stuff in due time. We don't have to do it all back to back to back right now, but over time, I think it'd be fun to kind of play with those and dig with those.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what our fans think of this.
As you say that, almost as if it's on cue. That's crazy. We have the
feedback
ringing,
phone. Better
I'll
go
have
grab it.
I'll go see. All right, we do have a couple of pieces of feedback this week. Always good to hear from anybody who sends them in. And Daphne, I'll let you take the first one.
Teresa Harper says, yes, I love all the Insidious movies and can't wait for the new release. She's, of course, talking about The Red Door, which is coming out in July.
Yeah. And I think we've already made official plans.
We
now.
have.
We talked about it during the episode, and now that we've gotten here to the end of the feedback, I think we are officially we're both going to be in the same city, hanging out.
Yeah.
Not too long after it comes out, so let's go hit up the Alamo Draft House and go see it.
Let's do it. I'm excited. It's going to be fun. My July, which is my birthday month, is turning into one of the best birthday months I've ever had. So I'm very excited about everything I have coming up.
It's going to be fun. And Teresa, hope you stay tuned in future episodes and seasons as we will continue our way through all of these Insidious and even Conjuring movies. I'm sure we'll throw those in. They're not related, but kind of related. Because I want to get over all of them in time, as I said earlier in the episode. So hope you're along for the ride.
Yeah.
And this other one comes from somebody named Rima Joe. No, I'm kidding. My other co-host over on Strange Indeed, Rima Joe, says, love this one. Watching the first time, it creeped me out so bad, and being a horror lover, that's not easy. I jumped so many times in that one scene, and I will never get over that, and it scares me every time.
I know just what she's referring to, and it is terrifying.
Yeah.
It is so creepy. One of the creepiest monsters I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. It's like, poof, he's there. What?
Yeah. You're not expecting it, and then he's there.
It's pretty great.
Well, if you would like to submit feedback like Teresa or Rima, you can do so by finding us on our Facebook and Instagram pages at Run for Your Lives Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at RFYL Podcast. Email us at runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. And if you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, pretty much all other podcast players, including YouTube. Go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links you'll ever need, and give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that's the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, we do. And speaking of sharing the love, of course, I got to give some shout outs to things going on in the podcast universe around us. We got feedback from Rima, so mentioning that. Of course, yes, my other podcast, Strange Indeed, with Rima. We are still working through Sweet Tooth Season 2. We only have 2 episodes left.
I'm not ready, Pink.
Man,
I'm not ready.
I'm not either. But also, I kind of am. Not that I'm ready for the show to end or like the season to end because I'm really enjoying it. But also when we wrap up Sweet Tooth, we will be diving directly from there into the new season of Black Mirror. And I am excited to get to that.
That's going to be so good. I'm also excited, though, that Sweet Tooth, they've already filmed that 3rd season, which is going to be the last one. So if anything goes crazy with this writer's strike, I feel like Netflix is going to say, okay, well, we'll bring in season 3 of Sweet Tooth because we need something to put out to our viewers.
Yeah, so we'll get around to that probably, not too long. But yeah, Black Mirror, I'm excited. That's going to be fun. And then, of course, Yellow Jackets, WTF, the other podcast that you're on, even though you're not on this last episode they put out. It is part 2 of the feedback episode. So much. When a podcast gets so much feedback that they have to do 2 separate episodes just of feedback after the main episode, must be nice. There's the challenge. Can we get that much feedback on this podcast? Who knows?
We had quite a bit on our first episode of this season, so that was good. I think people missed us. Yeah. So maybe we'll ask all of our listeners again, do you guys want to leave us some feedback on next week's episode? I hope so. I'll tell you what it is once we get near the end of the podcast.
Yeah. You guys like more classic movies a lot, so I think this one will qualify for that. But you'll wait just a few more minutes and we'll get there.
Yes.
Because, of course, I got to give another shout-out to What Is From cast on Padcast.
On
Pad Thai Pastica.
I love that. That should be a new podcast where we go and try out different Thai food restaurants.
Just try different noodle dishes in general, because it's Pad Thai Pastica.
Yes. It sounds great to me. Let's get that going.
Nice. But give another shout out to the What Is From cast, also here on Podcastica, as Alex and Lizzie continue to cover season 2 of the MGM Plus series From, which is so freaking good. And they just continue to get more and more interviews that they throw in between episodes as well. They are, I say it every week when we shout them out, but they are absolutely killing it. It's awesome.
They are. They're really excited because there's only a couple of episodes left, but I know that they're working on some in-between season stuff as well. And they're also doing a live show every Sunday, I think around 10 or after Eastern time. They've just get on YouTube and talk about the episode that everyone just saw.
That's cool. It's fun. Yeah, definitely check that out. And that's on the Podcastica YouTube channel.
It is. And you can also watch it. It's on Podcastica and the What Is From podcast YouTube channel as well.
So, yeah, go check those out. For sure, if you're a fan of From. And if you're not, you should be, because it's such a good show.
It really is.
Check it out. Over on TV Podcast Industries, my just nerdy comic book loving friends over there.
Yes.
Of course, covering the new Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which I did go see that in theaters just the other day, and holy freaking crap, it is so good. Honestly, the animated Spider-Verse movies are beyond top notch. I love them so much. They're so good. This new one is no exception. So yeah, definitely go check out their coverage of that. It's amazing. So another new podcast that is launching, if those are interested, if you remember from like Perfectly Marvelous and the Poker Face podcast and things like that, Jade loves really like dissecting things, going into things. And so she is launching a new podcast with a friend of hers that is very Jade, and I think for those who know her and love that style, it is so incredibly awesome, and I'm excited for her. It is Shall We Compare Thee, and it is very much just taking sequels, remakes of classic movies and looking at newer versions of them and comparing and contrasting all the different things about the 2 different versions and seeing our remakes and remakes and reboots and things like that. Do they hold a candle to the originals? And Jade's just dissecting mind of film is incredible for that concept, and I think it's going to be amazing. So if that's something that interests you, definitely keep eyes on that and check that out when it launches, for sure. And they're starting with Psycho. So, Alfred Hitchcock Psycho. So.
And that was pretty much shot for shot remake.
Yeah,
so I'm wondering what she thinks of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know what I think.
Yeah.
But Jade has a different way of looking at things. So I'm definitely interested in that. And I know it's been in the works for a while. So I'm excited for her to get to launch it. I know what it's like when you launch a new podcast and it's yours. Like, you put all this effort into it, like we did with Run for Your Lives. It just feels good to get it out there so that people can listen to it.
Yeah. So you're going to keep that in mind. And then when it officially launches and I have more information of where to send you and stuff on that, just stay tuned because I'll make sure to throw that in here at the end as well. Anything new she's working on. But yeah, go ahead and give that a little shout out as well. But that's it for everything else for all of our podcast friends. But of course, you can always come back here next week because we'll have another fresh, tasty new episode served up for you. What we got next week?
Okay. In a near future Japan, the government has established a controversial law aimed at suppressing dissension among young people. Each year, a randomly selected class of students is transported to a remote island where they are given a set of rules for a deadly game. The rules state that the students must kill each other until only one remains. That is right, we are discussing the film Battle Royale. It's directed by Kinji Fukasaku, came out in 2000, was banned in a few countries when it was released. This is one that I adore so much. I covered it once with Mark on Adrenaline Cinema. It was one of his first episodes. But getting to do it in our special Run for Your Lives style just was amazing. So I'm excited for this episode to get out.
Yeah, so come back next week and check that one out. And if you are a fan or if you take the time to watch the movie, give us your feedback. It will be read, played, talked about. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes, definitely. With that, we have reached the end of another creepy, disturbing, wild episode of Run for Your Lives. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run,
you better tiptoe through the tulips.
Bye-bye.